live from Bryant-Denny Stadium with special guests, feature stories, and a comprehensive look at Alabama's upcoming game. This is Crimson Tide Kickoff on WVUA 23.
And good morning, everybody. Happy game day. I'm Gary Harris, and you're watching Crimson Tide Kickoff on WVUA 23. Let's go. As always, we begin with our Bama headlines.
For the latest on the Crimson Tide, you don't need the newspaper. You need Bama headlines.
Well, Alabama's looking to come back from a long layoff. Alabama hasn't played since Halloween, October 31st against Mississippi State. There was the scheduled bye and then an unscheduled one last week when LSU was not able to play down in Baton Rouge due to a COVID outbreak. The last time Alabama had a 2-week layoff was 1978. Actually, like I said, it's going to be 3 weeks between games. Expect to see more of young running backs like Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams against the Wildcats. Alabama running back Trey Sanders was injured in a car accident earlier this month. We'll give you an update on his status later on in the show. But in regards to McClellan and Williams, teammates say both freshman running backs look ready to contribute behind Najee Harris and Brian Robinson Jr. We got a stacked show, including a look back at which Tide players will be counted on to help fill the void following Jalen Waddle's injury, as well as interviews with Alabama's Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne, Darren Headrick of Kentucky Sports Radio in our Behind Enemy Lines segment, as well as University of Alabama President Dr. Stuart Bell. Well, this year has certainly been unlike any other due to the coronavirus pandemic, and Coach Saban said Wednesday that the players need to handle disruptions to the season with a so what, now what attitude. This week, Coach talked about the need for the team to get back in rhythm, which is a tough task, having not played a game in 3 weeks, and of course, dealing with coronavirus testing and protocols. The challenge is clear. The team had to adjust from not getting to play at LSU and then turning its focus 100% to Kentucky.
I think if you just approach it with the idea of, be where your feet are, and you can only really control the things that we can control. I mean, games being postponed or schedules moving around, we can't control that.
We took it as an opportunity to just come into practice and find something to get 1% better at every day. So that's just how we approached every single day.
I think it says a lot about our staff and our coaches, and the players have done such a really good job of being able to go 180 in their mindset and get prepared for an entirely different team, another good team in Kentucky. So we're looking forward to that.
And top-ranked Alabama really hasn't seen a team like Kentucky so far this season. The Wildcats offense and the COVID-19 scheduling adjustment put Nick Saban on high alert this week. Now, Alabama is inexperienced against an attack that features design quarterback runs. Kellen Mond only rushed it 8 times, and most of the 40 yards that Matt Corral picked up on the ground were the result of scrambles. But Kentucky will travel to Tuscaloosa with Terry Wilson taking the snaps, one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in the country.
When the quarterback can run, it makes it like Wildcat. There's always an extra gap because, you don't really account for the quarterback, in most basic things that you do on defense. So they do a good job with formations. They make you make a lot of adjustments, and you got to stay gap sound in everything you do, and you got to have, enough guys in the box to account for the quarterback. I don't think we played, anyone this year that the quarterback actually sort of does, or they have as many quarterback runs as these guys are capable of. But some of it's as simple as just, pulling the ball into zone read, which you got to be very disciplined. Whoever's got the quarterback got to stay on the quarterback.
Well, you like Alabama's chances against Kentucky because Bama has dominated the SEC East. 29 straight wins. Alabama's not lost an SEC East team since falling to Steve Spurrier in South Carolina in Columbia back on October 9th, 2010. The streak is 13 games longer than the second longest interdivision winning streak since the SEC split into divisions back in 1992. It's amazing, really. Well, star wide receiver Devontae Smith has caught 31 touchdown passes for the Tide. His 4 touchdowns in his last game against Mississippi State pushed him into a tie for the SEC career record in receptions. He's now tied with Florida's Chris Doering and Alabama's Amari Cooper for touchdown receptions. It's been 11 years since Kentucky has won an against an SEC West team on their home field. They beat Auburn at Auburn October 17, 2009. They've lost their last 12 road games against Western Division teams. Well, kickoff is scheduled for 3 p.m. inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. The weather is certainly playing its part. Can't think that you could even have better conditions for a football game here in Tuscaloosa. With more, here is Chelsea Aaron with our CTKO weather forecast.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are enjoying all of the sunshine and nice weather out there. We are completely dry and expect us to stay dry for game day. It's been quite a while since we had a game, 21 days to be exact, but today should be quite enjoyable as we're going to stay dry all across radar today. This is again due to a high pressure that's really dominating our weather systems right now. And look at those temperatures, feeling quite nice this morning and early afternoon. Temperatures in Tuscaloosa sitting in the upper 50s in Birmingham and the lower and mid 60s in Jasper, already in the upper 60s, and it feels really nice in the sunshine as well as you get to warm up as we go throughout the afternoon hours. Expect by around noon, temperatures are going to be rising into the 70s. Still going to be dry though, no cloud cover, mostly sunny skies, and then by kickoff at game time, temperatures again still remaining mild as we reach the lower and mid 70s. And tonight after the game, expect temperatures to cool down mainly in the 60s. So what to expect for your game day today? It's going to be a great day. As we go throughout the afternoon hours, we'll be topping out in the mid and lower 60s. And then by the end of the game, you might even need a light jacket.
Thank you, Chelsea. It looks great. Coming up, what do Mac Jones' teammates think about his success this season? And what do they do in terms of an approach when dealing with the quarterback's Heisman buzz? Find out next. And as Mark Stoops in Kentucky prepare for the challenge of stopping the dynamic Alabama offense, is there any hard feelings since Mac Jones was once a UK commit? Hear from the Wildcats head coach next.
You're watching Crimson Tide Kickoff on WVUA 23.
It doesn't surprise me. I know it surprises a lot of people, especially on the outside. I don't want to call all you guys out, but I know a lot of people didn't see that from Mac Jones, and we have for the past 2 or 3 years. The way he's worked and prepared and turned himself into one of the premier players in the country.
Absolutely. Welcome back to Crimson Tide Kickoff. I'm Gary Harris inside our WVUA 23 digital media studios inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. It is pretty neat. I'll give you that. Well, that's Alabama tight end Miller Forrestall having some fun with the media this week. Mac Jones' teammates say they're not surprised one bit by the quarterback's eye-popping statistics. Based on some publications, Mac Jones is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. But that is not how it started. Half a decade ago, things were looking to be quite different for Mac. CTKO's Julia Westerman is live with more on his original plan and how his decision impacted today's opponent.
Gary, if you go back to 2015, Mac Jones would have been committed to the Kentucky Wildcats. But it's 2020, and lucky for Alabama fans, he plays for the Crimson Tide.
The redshirt junior quarterback is now a front-runner for the 2020 Heisman Trophy, alongside names like Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Trask. Alabama is also ranked #1 going into the game this afternoon, but those numbers aren't on Jones's mind.
It's great to be considered the top team or whatever, but none of that really matters. I mean, whether you're ranked 25th, first, doesn't matter. You have to go out there and control your own destiny by winning every game.
Jones made the flip from UK to UA in 2016 after a nearly year-long commitment to the Wildcats. Since the fall of 2017, Kentucky has fared well on the gridiron with 2 wins and 3 bowl appearances. The Wildcats have had a carousel of quarterbacks over the past few years. They enter today 3-4, but with promise.
I think Mark Stoops has done a really good job, at Kentucky. They've got a good team. Quarterbacks are very athletic and can run, create a lot of quarterback run issues, for you. But all around, this is a really good team. They've been in every game this year.
Well, Kentucky may have a really good team, but what they don't have is Mac Jones. The Kentucky defense may be able to slow him down, but we'll see if that will actually be able to happen. Live for CTKO, I'm Julia Westerman.
Thank you, Julia. With Kentucky in town today, it makes sense that fans and media would bring back an old story to life. Back in 2017, before Alabama offering him a scholarship. Mac Jones, as we just talked about, was committed to play at Kentucky for head coach Mark Stoops.
We were impressed. We felt like there was a bright future for him, and he's certainly proven us right. I wish he was here, but we still really love Matt and his family. A great young man, and it's really good to see him doing so well and playing at such a high level. He's been so accurate. I wish he was here, but happy for Mac.
And give Kentucky credit. I mean, they got on him before really anybody else did in the Southeastern Conference. But Bama fans are glad he wound up in Tuscaloosa. Well, coming up on CTKO, Alabama basketball star Kira Lewis Jr. gets drafted by the New Orleans Pelicans. And we'll take you to Huntsville for his big draft night party. Also, we talked to men's basketball coach Nate Oates as the team is gearing up for the start of the season. We'll do all that and more when we come back to CTKO right here on WVUA 23.
No, we had our bye weekend, and I got to go home and propose. So that was it was a good win on a bye weekend. So.
Well, Alabama tight end Miller Forrestall made the most of the bye week a couple of weeks ago. He went home to Georgia and proposed to his girlfriend, Abby Lutzenkirchen, a former Alabama soccer player. Of course, her brother was the late Philip Lutzenkirchen of Auburn, and look at that. I mean, they are a great-looking couple, and Miller's having a great season. 10 receptions for 141 yards and a touchdown this season. And even though Alabama is 6-0, I think Forrestall's biggest victory so far this season came during the bye week. That is really cool. Well, welcome back to CTKO. I'm Gary Harris. Alabama men's basketball had 2 players earn conference recognition this week. On Thursday, the SEC unveiled its annual coaches preseason first and second teams. John Petty Jr. was named to the SEC first-team squad, while fellow senior Herbert Jones earned second-team honors. And the Tide is set to tip off the season on Wednesday against Jacksonville State at Coleman Coliseum. And there's a lot of preseason buzz in regards to Alabama. They're ranked 25th in the coaches poll. It's the first time they've been in the preseason rankings since 2017. We told you about seniors Petty and Jones, but freshmen like J.D. Davidson, who signed, is going to really help this team in the future. But right now, they're counting on a guy like Ivy League transfer Jordan Bruner, who can really play and has done so at the highest level.
We've got a checklist of everything that's got to be in by game one, but we're fine-tuning some stuff, but we're looking more towards putting a scouting report in on Jacksonville State, and I think we've got most of what we need in for game one, and we're just kind of fine-tuning stuff, making sure our conditioning stays great, making sure we get down what Jacksonville State's going to run. So we're ready to play. I'm ready to play somebody else. I can't wait for the season to start on Wednesday.
He's fired up, and he should be. Like I said, they got good players here now. Guys like J.D. Davidson coming in next season. The future's bright for Alabama basketball. But as he said, he's concerned about 4 days from now. Alabama's still riding the high from earlier this week when Kira Lewis Jr. was selected 13th overall in the first round of the NBA draft. William Galloway joins us now from the WVUA 23 newsroom with more on Kira and this past week's NBA draft. William?
Morning, Gary. Yeah, 13 was the big number this week for Kira Lewis as he was drafted by the Pelicans. That makes the second Alabama player in the last 3 years to be selected as a lottery pick. With the draft being virtual, the former Alabama point guard enjoyed the night back in Huntsville with family and friends for his draft party at the Von Braun Center. Lewis became the 16th Alabama player in program history to be chosen in the first round and the 7th top 15 pick, joining the company of Colin Sexton, Antonio McDyess, Robert Ory, Derek McKee, Ennis Watley, and Leon Douglas. Kira is also the first Crimson Tide player ever selected by the New Orleans Pelicans. On Wednesday night when he met with the media, Kira said he had a great relationship with New Orleans before the draft, and he's looking forward to being a Pelican, and he's really excited to be a teammate of Zion Williamson.
Just how cool they were when they came down and watched me work out on Zoom. Had a great conversation. The roster stick out because, there's great talent, young talent that want to compete and want to win. So, I feel like I can come in and help that right away. I mean, if you haven't heard Zion Williamson, man, you're in the wrong business. Great dude, great basketball player. I'm looking forward to getting down there and working with him, meeting him. Can't wait. Once again, great player, so can't wait for it to happen.
And we're all looking forward to see how Kyra does in New Orleans over the next years in his career. Reporting live for CTKO, I'm William Galloway.
Thank you, William. Great piece. And how about this? Former University of Alabama guard Colin Sexton gave his mother just what she wanted earlier this week when he surprised her with a brand new vehicle. This is likely a day the former lottery pick has been dreaming about for years, and he was able to show his appreciation to his mom going into the holiday season. Sexton was taken with the 8th overall pick in 2018 and is heading into his 3rd season with the Cleveland Cavaliers as the NBA season is just a month away. Also this note, JaMychal Green, former Alabama forward, late of the Clippers, did a great job there, but wasn't happy with their offer. He opted out and has signed a 2-year, $15 million free agent contract with the Denver Nuggets. Well, coming up on CTKO, see how postponed SEC games could affect the schedule for the remainder of the season. Also, we'll check out some of the other games in the SEC today, including a long-awaited debut for a much-hyped transfer quarterback in Athens, Georgia. Stick around. CTKO is coming right back.
Well, I don't mean to put words in Coach Perkins's mind, but I think in his mind he had to, he realized he was replacing or trying to replace Coach Bryant. And he just wanted all vestiges of Bryant. Bryant was not there, and he did it with no maliciousness at all. It was just that was his way of having to do something. And I'm not too sure, but maybe that was the best way to do it. Maybe not as difficult or hard as some things he did, like removing the towel, I think was kind of went against people's grain. But Perkins was a big Alabama. In fact, Ray Perkins was the mentally toughest ball player I've ever seen. He was mentally tough, and that's a big asset in football. But anyway, Ray had a hard job to do, and he did a good job of it, I think.
Eddie Conyers reminiscing about former Crimson Tide player and head coach Ray Perkins. And welcome back into Crimson Tide Kickoff. I'm Gary Harris. Now, there has been plenty of uncertainty in 2020, and football is certainly impacted by that. COVID-19 has caused the postponement of a number of games already this season. And here is Dylan to take us through the possibility of rescheduling some of these missed SEC games.
Last weekend, the Alabama Crimson Tide were supposed to travel to Death Valley to take on rival LSU Tigers, but the game was postponed along with over half of the other scheduled SEC games. There have been 8 games postponed this season, with only 4 Saturdays left until the SEC Championship on December 19th. And although the SEC doesn't have any answers regarding scheduling as of right now, some local Alabamians might have some of their own.
I think there's a week or two after the season's scheduled to end that they can make them up. I don't know if they would play 1 game a week or if you miss 2 games, try and fit in 2. So I guess just make up as many as you can, because it's not going to affect a whole lot. The only thing it would really affect is who plays in the SEC championship.
You have the top 5 teams, and you got to see exactly how many games they played versus where they deserve to be ranked. And that's true. If we scrap one, does that hurt against us, or does that help us at all? So I don't think it should be scrapped, but I do think it should be taken into consideration versus where we should be ranked versus how we get there.
The SEC has announced that December 19th will be used as a day to make up games for any teams that do not qualify for the SEC Championship. And revisions can be made to the upcoming schedule every week 5 days prior to the game. But with Alabama being a favorite to go to Atlanta and compete for an SEC championship, the question remains, will Alabama play LSU this season? Reporting for CTKO, I'm Dylan Morgan.
Thank you, Dylan. Well, if you're looking for quarterback talent, there's no shortage of it in the Southeastern Conference. Mac Jones isn't the only one getting national hype and attention. We take a look at how these quarterbacks will impact today's matchups throughout the Southeastern Conference. Here's CTKO's Stu McCann with this week's Around the SEC.
A common question this week. Can Mac Jones stay hot against Kentucky, which already has 11 interceptions this season? there is not as much intrigue for the SEC's other star QB. Florida's Kyle Trask leads the Gators against winless Vanderbilt. The Commodores rank 11th out of 12 teams in pass defense versus the quarterback that has thrown for at least 4 touchdowns in every game he's played this season. The moment Georgia fans have been waiting for, quarterback JT Daniels will reportedly make his UGA debut against Mississippi State. The highly touted transfer from Southern Cal has not played a snap through the first 6 games, and this offense needs a spark. The Bulldogs have dropped 2 of the last 3. Tennessee is trying to replicate its 2018 win over Auburn. On Wednesday, hours after he said he would wait to name a starting quarterback, Vols coach Jeremy Pruitt may have changed course.
Yeah, I mean, Jared is back. I think he's had a good couple of days here, just getting back into the groove, so to speak. So I thought our whole offense can see him making some strides there, which is good to see.
2 years ago, Garantano threw for 328 yards and 2 touchdowns in an upset road win at Auburn. The biggest point spread in the SEC this week is Florida, favored by 31 points against Vanderbilt. But the most eye-popping betting line is Arkansas by 3 over LSU. 1 year after LSU was favored by 42 points against the Razorbacks. Kind of sums up the season in a nutshell. You do not know what to expect, and things change in a hurry. That wraps up Around the SEC. For CTKO, I'm Stu McCann.
Great insight, Stu. Here is today's SEC schedule. A couple games already underway. Florida and Vanderbilt, Arkansas and LSU, Alabama and Kentucky, the only afternoon game. 3 p.m. kickoff at Bryant-Denny Stadium. 3 more games tonight. Number 23 Auburn hosts Tennessee at 6 p.m. 13th ranked Georgia battles Mississippi State at 6:30. And former UGA quarterback Mike Bobo in his first game as interim head coach at South Carolina. The Gamecocks play host to Missouri at 6:30 at Williams-Brice Stadium. Not listed on the Week 9 schedule, of course, Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Postponed due to the COVID-19 outbreak within the A&M program. That game was scheduled to be the CBS National Game of the Week. No decision has been made on a makeup date for that contest. Well, coming up next, this week's Burn Point with Alabama's Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne. And also, in a little bit, we'll go behind enemy lines with Darren Headrick of the Kentucky Sports Network. Stick around. More CTKO is on the way. Welcome back to Crimson Tide Kickoff. It's time for this week's edition of the Burn Point with University of Alabama Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne. Greg, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Gary?
I'm doing well. It's been a trying fall. We knew this was going to be the case going into this, that it wasn't a question of if sports would be impacted by coronavirus in the SEC, but when. And certainly it's been a challenge. But, you know, you look at the fall sports outside of football. And let's start with cross country, because Mercy Shalane won an SEC individual championship, the first for UA since 1993. Women finished second overall, the best team finished since 1994. So women's cross country, and Mercy in particular, something to celebrate this fall.
Yeah, obviously that's been one of the highlights for us. Mercy's a wonderful young woman. She's really worked hard over her time here at Alabama, and to see her able to go capture an SEC championship and then lead our team overall to a second place finish in the SEC, one of our best finishes in our history, certainly it was a highlight for us and all of our student athletes. But we're certainly proud of what she was able to accomplish.
Absolutely. In addition, and obviously we're keeping football out of the mix, but soccer got through the regular season. Volleyball, for the most part, there had been some postponements and cancellations, and obviously the schedule was set up different in the first place. But a lot of matches have been completed. Men's and women's golf teams both got through their fall season. So under the circumstances, I'm not going to assume, but I will ask you, as the AD, are you pleased with what was able to be accomplished this fall in these sports?
Yeah, you know, Gary, to be very honest, what we were looking at is, can we go compete? Can we move forward? And I even told the coaches, I said, listen, the first and foremost priority is going to be the safety and health and well-being of our student athletes and our coaches and our staff, and balancing that with the ability to try to move forward. And that's what we've really been focused on even since the summer, is how do we move forward? How do we respect the virus? It's a reality. It's here. How do we also respect one another? And then how do we move forward under these conditions? And, nobody has a playbook on how to handle these things. We obviously saw that with the cancellation of the LSU game. New twists every week. Coach Saban and I've talked about just the adversity and the challenges that are going to come along with this, and those have shown themselves to be true. And we need to continue to do our best to keep those foundational items at the forefront, which is the health and well-being of our student athletes and our coaches and staff, respecting the virus, respecting each other, and then finding a way to move forward. And we have been able to move forward, and we're going to continue to do our best to do so.
Absolutely. The SEC's put together a great plan, and I think, considering the circumstances, it's gone about as well as we could hope for. You mentioned the seriousness of COVID-19. You've dealt with it personally. How are you feeling, and what was it like to go through that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Compared to a lot of people, I've been very fortunate. I didn't end up in the hospital like a lot of folks have. A lot of folks obviously haven't had any symptoms, so you recognize that. But I'll tell you, it was challenging. It took me about 3 weeks to get back to where I'm feeling normal. And even today, every time I've tried to push myself working out, it still will kind of rear its head again on me, to where it knocks my energy out and deal with fatigue issues. But it was not a lot of fun, and I want to encourage everybody, for those who haven't had it, do your best to avoid it, and wear your masks and wash your hands. And I did that very well, and I think I got it in a short 5-minute stint from somebody where I was in their presence, and I was drinking water. That's how quickly I think it came on to where I caught it. And I had been trying to do all the right things. And so even as diligent as I had been, and a lot of people in our department, it's still, if it finds an opening, it will take it. And we all need to be reminded of that on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's still with us. Glad you're feeling better. Well, Greg, we're talking about wrapping up the fall, but that means that winter sports are certainly on the horizon with men's and women's basketball and gymnastics. Next week, we'll discuss that topic on the Byrne Point. For Greg Byrne, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Alabama place kicker Will Reichert surprised the Northside Rams specialist earlier this week. The Rams were preparing for a quarterfinal showdown in Class 4A against Etowah. Check out the post for the Northside football Twitter account. Quote, thanks to Alabama kicker Will Reichert for giving our kicker some pointers. Go Rams. Reichert attended Hoover High School in Birmingham. And welcome back to Crimson Tide Kickoff. I'm Gary Harris. As we prepare for the 41st meeting between Alabama and Kentucky, let's take a look at the game from the other sideline. William Galloway rejoins us now for Behind Enemy Lines. This week, he talked to Darren Headrick, who is part of the radio crew for the Kentucky Sports Network. William, tell us some more.
Hey, Gary. Last week, Kentucky beat Vanderbilt by 3, but the game wasn't as close as the score would indicate. Now, when you look at this week's game, Kentucky's up against a different beast.
The wide receivers for Kentucky, the passing game as a whole, has really struggled this year. They look good against Vanderbilt, but Alabama's not Vanderbilt.
Kentucky averages 318 yards of offense per game. 63%, or 195 of those yards, come from the running game. Headrick said that the Wildcats quarterback, Terry Wilson, is in need of more wide receivers.
Josh Ali is somebody he's targeted a lot, but still they need some more receivers to step up in that passing game and make some of the catches when Terry puts it on the money.
From a statistical perspective, the Wildcats have some of the top performers in the league on defense. However, there have been some frustrations, like last week when the defense allowed Vanderbilt to score 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Well, Brad White's defense just swarms to the football. Now, I will say that Coach Stoops has been a little irritated by his defense in the last couple of games. He commented in his press conferences this week that he feels like there are guys on defense waiting for someone else to make the play.
Defensively, terribly inconsistent again, was not real happy with the overall result. Felt like we did some good things at times, but then late in the game got extremely sloppy and gave them some late scores that let it become closer than it should have been.
Off the field, the entire Kentucky program has been dealing with the recent death of offensive line coach John Schlarman. He died last Thursday, November 12th, after a 2-year battle with cancer at the age of 45. His funeral was this past Monday.
So it's been a very emotional week for this team. I know they're going to be ready to go Saturday. They're going to be playing for him. I think there's going to be a lot of emotion. I'm really looking to see if Kentucky can channel that emotion into the right areas to compete against the Crimson Tide on Saturday.
Emotions will certainly be running high inside Bryant-Denny Stadium this afternoon. Reporting live for CTKO, I'm William Galloway.
Well, last week, Kentucky survived a scare from Vanderbilt, as we heard, 38-35. It was the most points that Vandy has scored in a game this season. The challenge is far greater for the UK defense today. Alabama is the top-scoring offense in the SEC, averaging 47.2 points per game. The Crimson Tide second in total offense at more than 555 yards per game.
You know, offensively, maybe as good of an offensive team as I've seen since I've been the head coach and a coordinator. It's been a long time since I've seen somebody as explosive as they are offensively, because they're so balanced. They're extremely physical when they want to be, and create unbelievable big plays with the talent and the receivers that they have. Max playing at an extremely high level, so very, very dangerous.
And Crimson Tide Kickoff will continue right after this message from our sponsors.
Welcome back to Crimson Tide Kickoff. I'm Mike Royer. We're joined today by the president of the university, Dr. Stuart Bell. Dr. Bell, thanks for joining us today. It's good to see you, sir.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, I have no idea what it's like to be the president of a major university. I know it's busy. I know it's hard, but no president of any university has ever faced a year like this year. Describe to us, if you would, today, what are the biggest challenges that you've had to deal with in trying to pull off a semester and a school year in as normal of a way as possible?
Well, you're right. We've certainly used the word, I think you did, unprecedented times that we're in now. And probably the overreaching part that's hard about this is really there's not a playbook for anyone in terms of identifying how do we address almost any issue, from teaching classes to playing sports to having other activities on campus. We're really finding our way as we move forward, and I think we've done a great job of that, but that really is the overarching challenge that we had. Of course, when we started our fall semester, we all know that we had a sharp spike in positive cases here. That's something that we knew that we would, of course, have positives on our campus during the year, but that sharp spike meant that we had to very quickly respond, and through testing and through working with the city to get that under control. We're able to do that really in a remarkably quick fashion and get to the point that we are today, where we're really in a good spot as we look to enter the Thanksgiving holidays, allowing our students to do exit testing and all the things that will continue to provide a safe return to them. But, overall, what we're really focused on is how could we make the experience for our students on campus be fulfilling, but also, of course, to be healthy and safe.
Great books have been written, movies have been made, and lots of speeches have been given about leadership, great leadership. I believe nothing happens successfully without that. You have provided great leadership, and I'd like you to tell us a bit about your staff, your vice presidents, your department heads, down to the people doing every job on campus. This had to be a massive undertaking, and I know you must be proud of the effort that the folks here at the university have put out this year.
Really, that's an understatement. It is just remarkable, truly remarkable what our faculty were able to do. You think back into March, so last March when we were first learning even what COVID was, very quickly we had to change over 6,000 courses from our normal in the classroom experience to being totally online, so that after spring break, we were able to continue to develop that student through their classes. And our faculty didn't miss a beat. They transitioned those 6,000 classes. We were able to complete the semester. You know, we had 16,000 students last spring who were still on the dean's list or the president's list. So likewise, the students didn't miss a beat, and the ability for them to transition their learning, the style of learning, and complete that semester in really remarkable fashion. So really kudos to the faculty, but also to the staff, and the students were able to finish that in the spring. And then, of course, over the summer, lots of planning went on, and we had staff that went in and socially distanced our classrooms by changing the arrangements. We used a lot of plexiglass. I don't know if I'd known, I would have invested more in the plexiglass business because we, and I think many other universities, have purchased lots of plexiglass that would allow us to, again, have that social distancing in a strong fashion while still being able to have great programs in our teaching, be that clinical style teaching, laboratory style teaching, or just in our classrooms. We even had our engineers, if you will, looking at adjusting how much air was moving through our buildings, because we knew fresh air and bringing fresh air in would help with the environment that our students were going to be in indoors. So it is remarkable how many different aspects of work went into that summer planning, and then into launching what we were able to do throughout this semester. Now we find ourselves here just before Thanksgiving, and really have returned our sentinel testing to what our sentinel testing was back in the summer before we even began the semester. So a very healthy, a very positive environment that we've been able to keep throughout the semester. And it all goes back to the hard work of our staff, of our faculty, and the students. The students set a high bar for themselves and really have held each other accountable. And I walk across campus and you see the students are all masked up, and I'm not sure it bothers them as much as I keep fidgeting with my mask. They seem to have adjusted and are able to still have that experience that we want them to have as part of being at the University of Alabama. So a great question. Just a wonderful job, though, by so many people at the University of Alabama.
The safety of the students and the faculty and the staff, I know, is your top priority, but the college experience, as you mentioned, is important too. Football is back in a little different way, and we've had some challenges with that. Talk about the importance of bringing back not just football, but extracurricular activities, and talk about the importance of that to you and to the university.
Surely. And, you know, part of it is you just have to put yourself and remember what a student athlete is. A student athlete, I mean, these students and whatever their sport is, they have been so integral to their lives for probably since 6th grade. So when we think about that part of their life, it's like sleeping, it's like eating, it's just what I do as part of my life. So I think I sit on the SEC President's Council, and what we recognized early on is we wanted to be sure that we were able to provide that experience and that continuity for all of our student athletes, but to do that in a safe and healthy way. So 1 week at a time, certainly throughout the summer planning, how could we make sure that we had a plan in place that allowed that? I can't give enough shout out to the medical team that's part of the SEC conference as well. I will tell you, throughout the summer, they were the leading voice in sports planning across the U.S. for collegiate. I'll just reflect on so many times we've heard, well, you can't do that, you can't do that. Our folks worked through to establish protocols that allowed us to not say you can't, but rather, here's how we can do that. Here's how we can move forward for the good of our student athletes. And so we've been able to, again, I think, develop a plan that is just as stable as it can be. You know, knock on wood here, we know that nothing is perfect, but the plan that was put in place has allowed us to move to where we are today. And if you expand that out to all of our students, a lot of extracurricular activities that students are involved in. I spoke to a group, one of our international groups on Saturday, and they had an event. It was socially distanced. Folks were in masks. I was able to go over and speak to them, but to understand that part of the out of classroom experience teaches our students leadership skills. It teaches our students organizational skills, the social skills. How do you make presentations in an environment like that one, and so many more that are being held each day on our campus. So you're right, Mike. Being able to allow those to continue within this time and figuring out a way that, again, we could be safe, it would be a healthy environment for our students was important, but now what they're able to glean from those interactions are really important.
And now, Dr. Bell, there are vaccines on the horizon, still a long way to go to get everyone vaccinated and safe, but 2021 promises to be a brighter, possibly more normal year. Thanks for your leadership. Thanks for your time today, and roll tide, sir. Thank you.
Roll tide, Mike. Thank you.
We're still not sure on the status of Alabama defensive end LeBron Ray, who's missed 3 games this season with an elbow injury. Will he play against Kentucky today? We don't know for sure, but here's Nick Saban earlier this week with an update.
Maybe there's some role he can play in the game, but it's going to be strictly up to how he feels. This is a different kind of injury when you've got an elbow and you're a defensive lineman and you're using your hands every play. I think, it takes time to get confidence in your ability to do that when you've had that kind of injury.
And we're back here on Crimson Tide Kickoff. I'm Gary Harris. Masks are now a part of daily life. And Gators seems to be a popular choice, especially for Alabama fans. However, since Alabama created their own, they've been hard to find. Ariel and Kaylee have more.
There's a new addition to the sidelines this year, masks. And the SEC coaches have a unique way of fulfilling this obligation.
Yeah, Kaylee, it just seems like these coaches can't seem to figure out how to wear these masks properly. For example, Tennessee head coach Jeremy Pruitt right here does not seem like he knows what he's doing. Kind of give me the E.T. and the basket on the bicycle type vibes right here. So,
speaking of Gators, Alabama has some of their own, and they seem to be the most sought-after mask we've seen.
This year, every athlete was issued the black Script A Gator, a new addition to the Alabama athletics team's uniforms.
You may have seen them on the sidelines, maybe even Nick Saban or some of the athletes on campus wearing them. But now, students can get their hands on them too at the campus soup store.
However, these Gators have been hard to come by. They've sold out multiple times since they've been available to the public, but they do continue to restock.
It's honestly like more students than anything, and I think it's because they see like the players wearing them and the athletes and the coaches wearing them during game day, and they know that that's where they got them from, so they come in and like ask for those because they saw them like at events and stuff like that.
Ariel, I can see why these are so popular. They just look so comfortable.
Yeah, Kaylee, all you gotta do is you gotta put it up over your nose, and it's definitely more comfortable than having the straps over your ears. I know that can give you a little bit of a headache, but just look at the design. That black and white is so sleek, still Alabama, and with anything Alabama, it's near perfection.
I think this might be something that I have to add to my Christmas wish list, and maybe Gary should too.
Oh no, Kaylee. Gary's covered with that. Reporting for CTKO, I'm Ariel Schaefer.
And I'm Kaylee Vance.
I'm fine with a mask. How about this one? My mask is me, and I am my mask. Thank you, girls. Nick Saban gave an update on Trey Sanders' injury earlier this week. The Tide's running back was a passenger in a car that was T-boned while traveling across an intersection. He suffered serious injuries that ended his season this year. However, Saban is optimistic that Sanders will make a full recovery after several months. According to AL.com's Matt Zenitz, there is a chance that Tide receiver Jalen Waddle could return to the field for the playoff. He's got that broken ankle, but he's already out of his cast and is progressing well. That would be awesome indeed if that were to happen. All right, let's take a final look now at our weather with CTKO's Chelsea Aaron.
Let's get a check on that final weather. Going to be feeling quite nice out there and plenty of doses of sunshine for your game. Alabama against Kentucky today. Again, all across radar, staying dry, continuing to stay dry throughout the afternoon hours and the rest of today. Temperatures are going to be sitting in the lower and mid 60s right now. Birmingham already in the upper 60s, feeling quite nice with all the sunshine that's out there. As we go throughout the afternoon hours, by noon, we'll be topping out in the lower and mid 70s. And by game time, again, expect it to feel quite nice. Again, no rain in sight as we have a high pressure that's really dominating our weather systems right now. And by the late tonight hours, we will be expecting it to be quite cool, but mainly mild. So what to expect for your game? Again, we'll be topping out in the lower 70s right around kickoff. This is where we reach our high. And by the end of the game, expect us to be in the lower and mid 60s.
All right, thank you, Chelsea. It is a beautiful day for football. The game's coming up at 3 o'clock on the Southeastern Conference Network. And tonight at 10, WVUA 23 News at 10, William Galloway will be in with a complete recap plus post-game reaction from the game between the Tide and the Wildcats. So thank you for joining us here on Crimson Tide Kickoff. For all of us here at WVUA 23 and CTKO, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game this afternoon and make sure and tune in for WVUA 23 News tonight at 10.